Contrary to popular belief, interior designing is much more than just decorating your house. And it can be a fascinating and glamorous career if you've got the right set of skills and all that creativity it demands. Hello and welcome. Today on the show, we find out how you too can kickstart a career in interior designing and also unravel how artists are making their mark in the design space.
If you have an eye for detail and a knack for design, if you want to pursue a career where your creativity will be your key to success, then perhaps a career in interior design is the right choice for you. The Indian home decor market was worth 20 billion in 2015, and while experts suggest an increased industry growth in the near future, the sector is also expected to witness a rise in employment opportunities, almost 19% by the year 2018.
So there is obviously a lot of demand in the industry for interior architects and interior designers. There's a shift in the industry. There's a lot of real estate is booming in metropolitan cities in Delhi, and therefore the demand. So we've had a lot of students are getting more and more aware that there is this demand.
While interior designing may be a career that's largely creative, it does require a formal education. A bachelor's degree, the fundamental academic requirement.
Well, first of all, we work with the different individuality of each student. So they have the chance, you will observe them very carefully, look at their style, their strengths, fortes, and based on that, we advise them on what they should do.
Interior design courses are a mix of diverse topics. From studying color schemes, fabric textures, furniture design, architecture or technical topics like CAD, which is a computer program for creating 2D or 3D representations of physical objects. Interior design courses are power-packed to enable students master the art of design. Apprenticeship plays an important role in an interior designer's career. Many young interior designers today, in pursuit of gaining practical knowledge, choose to work with either veteran designers or large interior design companies.
Internship is almost like a reality check for our students. They get the feel of the industry firsthand. They get to work with designers, architects who are pretty much running the show, and that gives them a very good exposure. We encourage them to even work through the summer if they have to, but internship is a very integral part for our industry.
While creativity is the most desirable skill in an interior designer, time management coupled with teamwork, coordination and patience are other must-have skills.
Well, first of all, the most important thing, I think, for anything and to succeed at anything is passion for something. And your education comes from anywhere, really, from the books you read, the people you talk to, from travels, from what you see. They need to be very good at observing things and looking at space, being innovative, being able to translate their ideas into the interior space.
Talk about diversity, and interior design careers are just that. From working in corporate jobs to individually pursuing design projects, an interior designing career is a right fit for people with a creative bent of mind.
I'm a law graduate and I also did my design course from NIFT. I always had a passion for designing, but I came from a bureaucratic background, so my father wanted me to have a career which was more academic oriented, but my love was more for designing. So ultimately I chose designing as my profession after practicing 2 years of law. Well, my day starts with all my site visits, because I have this habit, which is also our USP of the company, that we make a tracker as to the sites which contains all the details of the work progress of each day. So I make sure that in the morning I go to the site and check whether the work of the previous day of the tracker has been done, and then it's all office work and going with the clients for sourcing of material, site visits again with the clients, and I think that's it. I feel that like every other industry, the construction and interior industry is also like growing at a very fast pace. And I feel one of the reasons for it is the change in the mindset of we Indians. Now Indians want to spend a lot of money on their lifestyle, which is even seen in their spending power related to their houses. People want to live life king size. They want to spend on their houses, their office spaces. They want to live beautifully. And that's why I think even the demand for interior designers are increasing. With so much of construction happening, there is no dearth of work for anybody in the interiors industry. I feel one of the big challenges which one would face is finding a good firm for doing the internship, because interior designing as a profession or as a career is more experience oriented. It's not like what has been taught to you the institute. It's more like on the job training, on the site learning. It's more about experiences. And also another challenge which I feel a person would face is that this industry is highly unorganized and labor oriented, and dealing with the labor is actually a very difficult task, especially these days. The recent trends are all about less is more. Initially, it used to be very heavy kind of architecture, carvings and Victorian style, but the new trend is all about simple and straight line, and also a lot of industrial element like raw look with a lot of exposed pipes and raw walls with the cement finish or the brick finish. So a lot of artisan decor, everything organic basically, and very simple and straight line is in. And I feel one of the ways to keep yourself updated is to travel a lot and keep yourself updated with the international trends. And the best way to do that is to attend the international interiors fair like Isolani in Milan and Maison d'Objet in Paris. Career scope in the building and construction and interiors industry is very bright, because we cannot do away with the interiors. So it's always going to be in demand, and it's a booming industry. Also, I feel that it's a wonderful career to be opted by women, because it is a very creative field, very flexible, and you need to be very patient in this field, which I think women are blessed to be. Well, my message to anybody who aspires to be an interior designer would be the day you start with your career. What is your USP? Create a USP, that why should somebody hire you, and you will get all the answers with that. Be original, be creative, be understanding to your client's need, and be honest.
Well, it's time for us to slip into a short break, but don't go anywhere, because on the other side we have some more interesting dope on interior designing careers. An interior designer brings on table combinations of colors, textures and designs, often transforming spaces. But before you choose to take it up as your career, here's some industry perspective that might come in handy in making the right choice. We have with us Sonali Rastogi of Morphogenesis, who has more than 20 years of experience in the architecture and design space. Sonali, welcome to the show. Sonali, tell us a bit about how you started off with interior designing, being an architect and then shifting to interior design. Why do this?
For me, there has never really been a difference between the profession of architecture and interior design. Though technically my qualifications and my bachelor's and my master's degrees are in architecture, but they are both about spatial design. One deals with the built volume and the other deals with what is inside the built volume.
Right. Also, looking back at 5 years from now, how do you think has interior designing evolved in India? Have you seen a rise in the number of designers that we need today?
Well, I think interior design is always evolving at different levels. There is one which has to do with the trend aspect of it, which is kind of the glamorous fashion, exterior facade kind of aspect of it. The other is the more seriously technical and responsible aspect of interior design. And for me, that would be deeply linked to sustainability, because it is a field that uses resources. And today, where we stand today, minimizing the use of resource is the only way ahead for any field. So therefore, sustainability is the only way forward that I see, where huge steps will be taken in the next years to come.
Right. You know, a lot of architects that I've met, they sort of complain about how much an unorganized sector is interior designing in India. What do you think are some of the biggest reasons behind that?
So I think the disorganization in this sector comes from two aspects. One, if I talk of the bottom-up aspects, which is the person who builds it. And those people traditionally were craftsmen. Okay, they were master builders and craftsmen. Over the years, we have almost systematically eliminated craftsmen from our resource pool. On the other end of the spectrum, the education of interior design was not a subject that was taken seriously for several decades. When we were going through a phase of industrialization, just to provide was sufficient. To provide well and aptly was not really the concern. That is changed now, because since we became a more liberalized economy, and as I mentioned earlier, that there are more needs and demands. Earlier the need was shelter, not how the shelter works. Now people are specific about their need and demand.
Yes. Also, we see a lot of architects jumping into interior designing, architects turn interior designers. Where do we sort of draw a line? Are these very much connected, or, there's sort of a difference between the two?
So I think a lot of architects practice interior design because of what I said at the start, that actually it's all about designing a space and visualizing what a space is like. Where I see the difference, an interior designer bridges the gap between an interior designer and interior decorator. So therefore, they are better equipped to handle the softer trends, the soft furnishings, the markets research on availability, because for an architect to have the bandwidth from knowing their cement and concrete engineering backbone to all the way to the fabrics available in the market for the final finish of the curtains, I think is a tall order. Right? So I think there is an overlap in the middle, but the end, a real creatively fulfilling project would require an architect and interior designer and interior decorator to work in sync. Now it really doesn't matter who takes up 2 of the 3 job descriptions.
And a quick wrap on the chat now, Sonali. What will be your message to young people who want to take up interior designing as a career?
I think it's really important that they understand what their responsibility is, especially in a profession that we are still actually in a place where it is to leapfrog into being, I would say, significant in the impact it can make on society. It really needs to understand that their responsibility is to reinvent the crafts or rediscover the crafts which was the tradition of interior design, if you may call it, in this nation for centuries. They have to re-propagate Indian materials in India and internationally. They have to be brand ambassadors of this country and its product and its craftsmen.
Well, that's indeed a lot of valuable information. Thank you so much for being on the show with us. If you've ever found yourself drooling over that new contemporary art piece in your neighbor's house, or perhaps have even envied them for that, then maybe you are an art buff. While many of us praise to glory these beautiful art pieces, not many really care to go behind the scenes and find out who created them. Today on the show, we bring to you an interesting story of a young artist whose art is perhaps changing the way your interiors look.
When you think about art, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Paintings, sculptures, graffiti. While art can be aesthetically pleasing, it also has the power to impact our lives in not one but many ways. Therapeutic healing and creating social awareness, for instance. Meet Sudhamini Mishra, a self-taught painter and sculptor.
Well, I was actually a history student to begin with, and art was never one of my hobbies, or even like it wasn't even an interest as such. I just sort of got into it because my grandfather, who was a scientist, he used to collect these books on various artists. So we had a huge collection of biographies and all the autobiographies as well. So that's how I started like developing an interest in artists. And then their art and what their art meant, what every painting signified, symbolism.
A history honours graduate from Delhi University, as an artist, she draws inspiration from her immediate environment. Take for instance her most recent artwork, a 3D painting that mimics the entrance of her own house.
Painting is based on actually a technique called trompe-l'oeil. It's a French term for to fool the eye. That's what it literally translates to. And this actually three-dimensionally extends the space. So like for example, if you place the canvas in a smaller room, it automatically gives the illusion of extending space. Whether you have a pair of doors or windows or anything which is an architectural element. And perspective is the most important element in this painting. So this is actually a doorway to my own house, and that's exactly what inspired me to paint it, because now that if I travel a lot, or obviously I can't carry the painting along with me, but if I had to like actually give another person the feeling of home that I get from my own home. So if I wanted to make another person feel that, how would I do it? So that's how the idea of painting germinated.
While painting and sculpting are her first love, Sudhamini's other talents are creative writing and playing the violin.
Well, I've always been more of a writer than a painter. It was actually my writerly ambition that got me to painting. Because to begin with, I was a history grad and all of that because I wanted to be a writer. My long-term ambition was to be, maybe first a journalist and a writer, because how do you pay the bills? So I was actually looking at that option of being a writer, and I've been writing since I was a kid. But then it so happened that painting just came along the way. I started getting exhibitions and shows like back to back. Writing is, I think, a more long-term dream, because you've got to know a lot more about life before you sit down and write. So I still write. I have my short stories that I write, and I illustrate them. So most of these paintings that you see are actually illustrations.
Some of her recent gallery contributions include the visual artist galleries Visual Avalanche and Orléans Français Romanticis.
Okay, in this field, age is your best friend. So it's like, it's the best part of it and the worst part of it, because the younger you are, the more this profession would go against you. When you're young here in this field, you have to somewhat like, be flexible, adjust to people's tastes. Like supposing you can very much have your own style and your own imagination, but you have to be somewhat pragmatic about it. You can't be totally free. You can't think that you're going to basically make an R on an S and sell it for a lakh and you'll make it. That's not how it goes. You have to first learn the rules to break them, like they say. So initially in the first few years, you just have to like be flexible, cater to the audience, cater to the masses.
Inspired by artists like Raja Ravi Verma and Manjeet Baba, Sudhamini believes it's the concept of her art that makes it singular. With Richa Sajothia and camera person S. Arun, Abhishek Singh for NDTV.
Well, it's time for us to say goodbye. Catch up with us once again next week as we explore another exciting career for you. And in the meantime, if you have any career queries or feedback, then write into us on mindspace@ndtv.com or catch up with us on our Facebook and Twitter. Goodbye.
Catch the heads-up episodes you might have missed during the week at these times only on NDTV Prime.